Alright, so it's time for another episode of Wrestling News. Gonna be going over AEW and WWE's latest news today, and we got a couple big topics today, ranging from AEW taking shots at the WWE, or more specifically NXT, in their newest commercial, a big return, an unexpected return, WWE kind of playing games with the Dana Brooke Batista situation, and Seth Rollins revealing what he doesn't like about the Fiend's matches. So let's go ahead and get started with what you've probably already heard, and that is John Morrison is now officially back in the WWE. He signed with the company. It's not a rumor anymore like it was back in September, which, by the way, John Morrison denied at the time. Now it's official. They announced it on WWE Backstage, and John Morrison on Twitter said, "Confirmed, I have signed with WWE. I've never been as good at anything as I am at wrestling, and I can't wait to stand again in the WWE ring opposite the most talented people in the business." To that, CM Punk replied saying, "Dude, Will Ospreay is in New Japan." Kind of taking shots maybe at Seth Rollins there, since Will Ospreay and Seth Rollins kind of had a back and forth on Twitter a while back. John Morrison replied to that laughing, and Zack Ryder also gave his reaction on Twitter saying, I'm so confused, he blew up in the limo, I saw it, I filmed it." Which is true, the last time we saw John Morrison in a semi-WWE type of environment was when this happened. Okay, so unexpected big fail here. I was gonna show you guys the footage of Zack Ryder and John Morrison, where John Morrison gets into a limo and the limo explodes, from Zack Ryder's old show on YouTube. But unfortunately, once I posted that video up, it got copyright claimed by WWE. So I can't show you guys the footage. Instead, I'll link it in the description box so you guys can check it out that way. But I'll have to cut this part out of the video. Anyways, let's go ahead and resume the rest of it. So it looks like a new dead man has risen, and hey, think about this. Sheamus is coming back with his old look. The Fiend tore away Bryan's hair, so he might be going back to the short hair look too. The Miz kind of still looks the same, and if John Morrison joins them on the same brand, that'll make SmackDown like 2011 all over again. And speaking of Morrison, I think one of people's worst fears would be for him to come back with a generic theme song just like Shawn Benjamin did. Well, we got some good news in regards to that, because on WWE's new show The Bump, they went ahead and announced that he'd be on next week, and when they announced that and had him cut a short promo, they played his old theme song, Ain't No Make Believe, in the background. So I'd say that's a pretty good sign that we'll be hearing that once he comes out instead of some generic crap. Also, one last thing, with him returning before the Rumble, if he participates in it, could we be seeing Kofi Kingston and John Morrison both compete to see who has the sickest Royal Rumble safe spot? Because John Morrison is also known for one of those spots. But anyways, onto a smaller, but definitely not in stature, return, an unexpected return here. Dio Madden, who was on commentary on Raw, who got F5 by Brock Lesnar, which, by the way, looking at this pic now, I didn't notice this the first time. Why is Jerry the King Lawler laughing at his broadcast partner getting F5'd? Anyways, they announced on Backstage that he's actually leaving commentary. Samoa Joe's going to replace him until he's cleared to compete, and Dio Madden is getting back in the ring. And Dio Madden went ahead and took to Twitter to say Matt Riddle moved on to Goldberg, so I'll retire Brock. I don't know about all that. I mean, hey, when he stepped up to Brock, they looked like pretty much the same size. Actually, Dio Madden looked a bit bigger than Brock, which is odd, seeing a commentator like outsize an actual wrestler, let alone Brock Lesnar. But as far as him retiring Brock Lesnar, come on. He got F5 through the announce table a month ago, and because of that, we hadn't seen him all this time. If an F5 through a table is going to take you out for a whole month, your chances of retiring Brock Lesnar are pretty much zero. That's actually more likely that Brock Lesnar is going to retire you. I mean, wasn't Michael Cole F5 once and he came back the next week? Is Michael Cole more durable than this guy? But anyways, regardless of that, I'd actually like to see it if he comes back in a segment and is like, yo, Brock, I can actually wrestle too, let's go. I'd be cool with that. But moving on to the brand new AEW Dynamite commercial that got a lot of attention from people, because during the commercial they mentioned NXT and they took shots at NXT by bringing up some quotes from various different websites talking about how AEW Dynamite is better than NXT. So I'm not going to show the full commercial, but I will go ahead and show you these quotes. So the first quote that they showed from comic books said AEW Dynamite crushes NXT. The second one they showed was from Forbes. It said AEW Dynamite trounces NXT. And the third one from Rap, AEW Dynamite buries NXT. So this is, I think, the first commercial where they directly mention their competition. Now, this comes off as bad for a couple different reasons, mainly two reasons. Number one, for a while now, maybe since the very beginning, they've talked about, people from AEW have talked about how it's not a war, how they're not so much concerned with NXT, but they're concerned on their own show. It's not a fight, it's not a war, this and that. Yet here they are. See, here's the thing with this commercial. We don't know if AEW was the one to decide to put these quotes in, or if it's TNT. But them saying that, and then, you got this in the commercial, it's like, what? Didn't you guys say it wasn't a war? And then second of all, quotes like AEW Dynamite buries NXT and things like that. Probably not the best timing to have a commercial like this, seeing as how the past 2 weeks have been the 2 weeks where NXT actually beat AEW when it comes to the ratings. Now, if this commercial had aired like a couple weeks back, it could have been accurate because at the time, AEW kept beating NXT week after week when it comes to the ratings. They had more viewers like every single week. But it airs now at a time where, for 2 weeks now, NXT has actually beat AEW when it comes to the ratings, when it comes to the viewers. They've got more viewers than AEW has. Now, of course, you could say, oh, well, the crushes and buries, this and that, it doesn't apply to the ratings, it applies to the quality of the show. But even then, that brings us back to the first point that I made, and that's the top guys in AEW talking about how they don't consider this a war, but then you have this messaging right here in the commercial. So yeah, this comes off as weird, but hey, they've got a chance tonight at living up to, those quotes by like crushing NXT, because they've got a bunch of good stuff announced for tonight's episode. Like Chris Jericho, he's got a promo, so what happened last week with Jon Moxley coming out at the end of his match. Maybe he'll talk about Jon Moxley. Maybe we get a face-off with those guys or something like that. And then speaking of Jon Moxley, you got a rematch between Jon Moxley and Joey Janela, Christopher Daniels versus Pentagon Jr., Rey Fenix versus Trent. There's a lot of potential with this show. And also the Inner Circle versus the Young Bucks and Dustin Rhodes. So we'll see how it goes when it actually plays out, but hey, NXT could also go ahead and pull off the win again. If that happens though, the commercial is going to look even worse because that'd be 3 weeks of NXT beating them. But on to the next news story. So Seth Rollins was on WWE Backstage this week, and no, this has nothing to do with CM Punk, instead it's got to do with The Fiend. He basically revealed something that he didn't like about his matches with The Fiend, and surprisingly, it's not The Fiend getting up constantly from, stomp after stomp after stomp. It's the lighting. So Christian, who was on the panel, asked them, hey, can you be honest with us? Tell us how you feel about the red lighting. And Seth Rollins said the following: I didn't know, I had no idea it was going to stay on. It was part of his entrance and then it just never turned off. So that was a mess for me. First of all, you're in this dark red, and then the cell is also red, and so then you're trying to navigate around the edges of the cell, and it's very tight corners to begin with. It was a mess. It was very difficult to deal with, especially not knowing it was going to happen. I, for one, am not a fan. I feel it affects my performance personally. And Paige also seemed to agree with that. It seems like Christian, Paige, and Seth Rollins feel the same way. They don't like the red lighting, and I think most of the fans would agree too. We'd prefer the red lighting just to not be there. Just keep it normal. He can have it for his entrance, but as far as the match goes, I think it'd be better without it. And this is Seth Rollins himself saying that, hey, he didn't like it either. And it is surprising that they didn't tell him that it was going to be on when they first introduced the red lighting inside the cell. So hopefully WWE listens now, because this isn't just the fans saying that they don't like the red light. Now it's also one of their top guys saying that he doesn't like the light and he feels that it affects his performance. So please, just get rid of the red light. It was fine the way it was when he was facing off against Finn Balor in his first match as The Fiend. Enough about that though, because it's time for the final bit of news. So, if you guys haven't been paying attention, on Twitter, Dana Brooke and Batista have been going back and forth, flirting with each other, this and that, trying to set up a date, trying to set up something, and, it's brought out a lot of jokes from the fans on Twitter, about how Batista's gonna go ahead and unleash the animal, or unleash his animal on Dana, maybe walk alone inside Dana's pit of danger. But a lot of the jokes also revolve on one of the most asked questions when it comes to Batista. For those of you unaware, there's this company called Kayfabe Commentaries. They usually interview wrestlers after they leave the WWE, ask them questions about the WWE, their time there, this and that, and in one of these segments, they take fan questions. And there's one fan question that pops up pretty much every single time in like every single one of their interviews, and this is the question right here.
Sinbad from the board wants to know, how big is Batista'S?
Don't have a clue.
And WWE, or at least the people that are involved with WWE's The Bump Twitter, must be aware of this, because today they went ahead and posted up a still shot, like a picture from the interview that they had with Dana on the show, and out of all the screenshots that they could have taken, they chose this one right here. Come on, you can't tell me that this was not intentional. This really wasn't intentional, and people took notice. Look at this. So that's how big. And then somebody else, Kayfabe Sean, the host of Kayfabe Commentaries. I think a popular question has just been answered by this picture. Yeah, I think they did this intentionally. So maybe Dana Brooke has just answered the question that people have been wondering for years. So that sums up today's news. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, click the like button. I'm out. See ya.